Hey everybody, how you doing? Well, that's good. You're listening to PHLY Flyers. That's right, PHLY. My name is Bill Matz. I'm your director of fun and games for the evening, and woo! Another one in the win column for our fighting Flyers. Where do we even begin with this one? I mean, where we begin is we got Charlie O'Connor, Philadelphia's #1 beat reporter. It's nice to have you in studio live for one of these things, Charlie. It's even nicer after what was a pretty damn entertaining win. You know, they come out on Wednesday. They absolutely dominate the game, outshoot Buffalo 40-15, but somehow lose 5-2. The hockey gods give and the hockey gods take away. Tonight, I think they only had like 20 shots on goal, score 5 themselves, blow out the Buffalo Sabres in Buffalo, and the two games basically balance each other out, right?
Yeah, I mean, in a sense, although...
I mean, they played great in both of them.
Yeah, you could argue they should have won both, but hey, sometimes hockey is hockey, and your starting goalie gets injured, and your backup goalie doesn't play that well, and then boom. But tonight, they just, I think, really carried over, because if you go back to Wednesday's game, and Tortorella made this very clear after the game, he didn't like their start. But he felt like probably the final 50 minutes of that game, the second half of the first period through the rest of the game, they outplayed the Sabres despite what the final score was. Considerably, yeah. And what you saw tonight, especially in the first period, was the Flyers just carrying over that quality of play. Because around, in the second period and the third period, the Sabres kind of woke up a little bit. But that first period, it looked like there was an NHL team versus an AHL team out there. The Flyers were in the game. And the Sabres were just skating around.
No, that's very much what it looked like. And going back to Wednesday, I remember when we talked after that game, I said, like, it started out a lot like the Carolina game where I thought, ooh, I don't know if the Flyers can handle their skill and speed, and then just absolutely took over the game after that. Like, it wasn't, Buffalo scored a bunch of goals, but Sam Ersson wasn't ready to play.
Yeah.
He was tonight. We're going to get into him in a little bit, but just... step back. You and I both came into this season thinking, all right, maybe not bottom 5, but maybe round where they were last year, bottom 7, top 10 pick definitely. I still don't want to say they're good, but they play well more nights than not, right? Like
they certainly have.
I know, like we can't get too ahead of ourselves. It is still just today's November 3rd. But like they pretty much always look like a competitive team.
Let's say this. They're currently doing a very good impersonation of a good hockey team.
Like, maybe it's just they're in a Halloween costume of a good team, but whatever it is, like they just look really good. I do want to start tonight, though. We get the news, I guess, earlier today that Sean Couturier wasn't going to play. We knew on Wednesday that maybe Thursday that Carter Hart was going to miss some time. Conservatively, those are 2 of their 3 most valuable players, if not their 2 absolute best players.
That's fair.
Like, at least most valuable in terms of everything you ask those 2 guys to do. And it's like, all right, well, yeah, territorial domination on Wednesday, that's kind of Couturier's thing. How are they going to fare without him tonight against a team that does have some star power?
Yeah.
Okay, they didn't dominate the game the way they did on Wednesday, but by the final score, they did.
Yeah.
Like, they did this without Carter Hart, and I think even more impressively, without Sean Couturier. I'm kind of at a loss right now. Like, we came into the year going, if they just kind of win a little more than we expect, but it's, Sean Couturier, and Carter Hart steals them a bunch of games, does that really accomplish anything? Well, tonight, they win without either of those guys. I just can't help but impressed with this team right
tip
now.
your cap.
I have very little other than I'm impressed.
Yeah, no, they're looking really good. And I wrote a story earlier this week. You pumped it up on Twitter, just looking at the changes they've made stylistically. And the big change that they've made based on what I've tracked, what I went back and rewatched games, and then also the conversations I've had with John Tortorella, is that he wants the Flyers to open things up more. He wants them to stop playing just pure dump and chase hockey, being so scared to make a play that they lose a bunch of games 2-1 and 3-1 and 1-0. And I think you saw it in these 2 games against Buffalo. This is a Flyers team that is trying to make plays. They are trying. They are trying to carry the puck into the offensive zone. They are willing to take the risk of maybe there's going to be a turnover. They're sending guys deep into the neutral zone to try to get stretch passes. Like, they are trying to make things happen. And I almost wonder if it's going to be interesting, and I'm working on a 2-part mailbag. Part 1 came out today. Part 2 is coming out tomorrow, only for diehard members. So if you're not a diehard member,
sign up.
Check it out. Cheap. But one of the I forget if it was in this mailbag, the one that was released today, or the one that's coming out Saturday. But one thing I wondered in one of my answers is, could part of this, by this I mean the Flyers playing this well, could part of this be that other teams are underrating them? That other teams are coming in thinking that they're going to be facing off against a Flyers team that's as bad as everyone expected, and they're just getting shocked by how engaged this Flyers team is, and honestly, with how much skill up and down the lineup they have. They don't have the superstars, but they can roll 4 pretty darn good lines.
They have 3-second lines.
Yeah,
I mean, with Sean Couturier, it's a little more like once Scott Lawton is one of your top 9 centers, it's hard to say that, but it's like, yeah, they kind of come at you in waves, and you see them roll 4 lines tonight. The 4th line chips in another goal.
Yeah.
Garnett Hathaway, spoiler alert, he's going to factor into my 3 stars of the game. Loved how he played tonight, but I just... like, looking at the way this year started, and we were impressed with the quality of team they were beating. And it was, all right, well, maybe Vancouver, they have skill, but they're not as good as we think they are. Vancouver's the best team in Canada right now.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Edmonton, they're off to a slow start, but they have Connor McDavid, and the Flyers don't. So, like you would expect. And now Buffalo, okay, maybe it's possible. And Buffalo, not off to the best start either, but maybe it's possible they underestimate the Flyers on Wednesday, and that leads to like the Flyers just kind of jumping on them the way they did. But tonight, all right, you just played them.
Yeah.
They beat the shit out of you despite the final score. There's no way you took them lightly, and I think it was pretty apparent that they wouldn't by the fact that, yes, he played great on Wednesday, so I guess you give him the start again against the same team. But with back-to-backs, and tomorrow being a national, like, it's a big game. Hockey Night in Canada in Toronto.
And it's a division game.
Yeah, and in the division, they're going to give rookie Devin Levi, who hasn't been very good, that game. And they used Luukkonen against the Flyers again tonight. Didn't work the way it did Wednesday.
Right.
But I just think that kind of goes to the mindset of, all right, if teams were underestimating them, they're not anymore.
They shouldn't be. They really shouldn't be underestimating the Flyers at this point because and we've broken this down from the start, they lack high-end talent. The defense core, is maybe playing a little bit over its head to start the year. But this team is going to work friggin' hard, and they are going to make life tough on you. And if you look, you can beat the Flyers. You can. If you have more skill, you can do what Dallas did, what Vegas did, whereas over time, you start to find those holes in the lineup that the Flyers have. But if you're going to do it, you're going to have to work your ass off to do it. And if you do what Buffalo did in the first period and just kind of...
not show up.
Yeah, and just kind of think that we'll just go out there and we'll win again, the Flyers are going to do what they did to Buffalo tonight, which is come out there and score, 2 goals in like 32 seconds?
Yeah, it was right away, again, which is funny because they jumped on him, 55 seconds in with the Farabee goal. A little fluky on Wednesday, but then they come right back and have an even better start. Because, Farabee scored on Wednesday, but it was... Buffalo kind of owned that first part of the first period.
Absolutely.
This one was all Flyers the entire first period. Buffalo started to come on a little at the end. They get the power play to start the second, and the game was a little more even from there, but the Flyers took advantage of their opportunities, so they're able to make it look like they dominated the game on the score. But, yeah, I guess, how much of this, because this was a question I got in the mini mailbag I did for YouTube the other day, that I wanted to kind of run by you. How much of this is the Flyers have really improved from last year? And you've the article, if you haven't read Charlie's article about the stylistic change they've made, it's great shit. Classic O'Connor, really good stuff. But like, how much of this is team is better? Couturier back, Hart, Atkinson, all that, but younger guys taking steps, everyone. And how much of it is just the Tortorella effect? Yeah, it's the beginning of the season and the Flyers work real hard. Like, how do we weigh this?
Well,
there's no way to know until December.
Yeah,
right?
I was going to say the great thing about this is we're going to find out because there are going to be more games. There's another, 71 left to play. So we're going to find out. But look, I'm sure they're benefiting from the fact that Tortorella, and it's not even just that he runs them hard in camp, it's that you have to work your tail off in the summer to survive a John Tortorella camp, which means that they're probably in better shape than most teams. Now, over the course of a season, that gap will probably shrink because some guys play themselves into shape. Like, I'm of the personal belief that Jake Voracek wasn't at his best physically until December every year. And I think there are quite a few players in the NHL that are probably like that. So the gap will shrink in that regard. To be fair,
it's a fucking long season.
It is a long season.
you know, like it might not be the greatest thing in the world to peak right away. You know, you look at the last couple of like President's Trophy winner, like going back to the Tampa team, dominates all year, out in the first round. Boston last year, best team ever, out in the first round. Maybe winning a bunch of October and November games isn't all that important, especially if you have higher aspirations.
To be sure.
And like, I think that like some veteran guys like Jake, you can
play.
We know you're going to be fine.
You can play yourself.
We know
into
you're
the
going to be
season
fine. But for this team and the point they're at, this is what they're supposed to be doing, and they're doing it. Like, there are no expectations for this team. People think that they're bad, and they're like, yeah, we're going to go out and outwork you. Good luck. Like, and it's actually working.
Yeah. I think, what it really boils down to and why this start is so exciting, it's not that I think the Flyers are going to go on this surprising Cinderella run. It's not even that I think they're going to make the playoffs. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs. But what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a team where they're doing everything they can do to build a foundation and a structure that then, if you take the blue chip prospects they have coming and put that on top of what they have now, suddenly that could be a contender because they're getting as much out of the talent they have as they can, and they have more talent coming in the coming years. And that's the exciting part of this, because it's one thing to add blue chip prospects. It's one thing to add high-end talent. But if you don't have people behind them that are supporting them, number one, but if you don't have a team that's playing as a cohesive whole that can carry play, that can get those guys into the offensive zone to work their magic, then you're going to spin your wheels like Edmonton did for years until they finally got good. Like
Buffalo right now.
Yeah, like I would love to see Cutter Gauthier and Matvei Michkov come to a Flyers team that is already collecting 53% of the expected goals on a nightly basis, and then have them supercharge the thing.
Now it's 56, and we're really good.
Yeah, like rather than that, then they have to come in and fix it. Like, let's have it already fixed and already be a bubble team, and then you get those guys, and then we're cooking with gas.
The analogy I've been making in my head is like the NFL team with the really good defense, like nice O-line, couple of good playmakers, and it's like, yeah, we got some bum at quarterback. Like the Tampa Bay Bucks pre-Tom Brady.
Yeah, fair.
Like if we can just get that guy in that spot, we will then have everything.
Yeah.
And it's like the Flyers, they're far from having everything. Like Cutter Gauthier and Matvei Michkov are not going to step in and make this a Stanley Cup team.
No, not at all.
Young teams don't win, first of all. Like if your best players are young, it's going to take a little bit. But like I'm seeing it. I'm actually seeing it, and I don't want to... Like, I don't want to sound like a fanboy, but if you've been listening to me and Charlie long enough, I actually fucking hate this team. We came into the year with such low expectations, and maybe it's the benefit of those expectations that they're so drastically, like, they just look good. They're a 500 team, you know?
Yeah.
But they're so drastically outperforming what I expected, even on a night like tonight with no Hart, no Couturier, that it's hard not to look to the future and go, it's actually bright. Because I know we all have heard, they're, 2 to 3 years away from being it. I know. Listen, and I catch myself talking because like it is the time frame because of Michkov. You know, like it's actually 3 years.
Yeah.
And so you say it and then you hear yourself say it and go, am I one of them? Like, am I actually falling into the... But it's true. And if those guys, like if Gauthier can join this team maybe at the end of this season, if they can get Michkov early, oh my God. Because I'm just like going to convince myself he's going to come early. I know we talked. We talked.
You know what? Have at it,
before the
Phil.
year, we talked about like let's just say it's going to be 4 years from now, and if it's earlier, that'll be a nice Christmas surprise for everyone. No, I want Christmas in July.
I want him now.
I want Christmas in July. Not now, but like say after next year or something. Rather than 4 years, it's 2. I'd be fine with that.
Okay.
We're gonna get into a little bit of a big picture conversation, and it's gonna center around Travis Konecny. But first, I got to tell you about our friends at Hero Bread. Listen, I think this time of year, we could all use a little help making some better decisions. I know with football every Sunday, tons of hockey games, such a good slate last night, and tonight, Flyers, obviously. Not to mention there's holiday parties coming up. I know I made my Thanksgiving plans today, all of that around the corner. I'm going to be taking in a lot of calories and a lot of carbs, specifically as a beverage. And now I'm told that that's not like the best choice for maintaining a healthy lifestyle, but that's where Hero Bread comes in. Hero makes sliced breads, buns, and tortillas that are available on hero.co and Amazon. I've been making a ton of quesadillas with the tortillas, but all of their products have hit the spot for me. This bread is soft, fluffy, and delicious. Lots of fiber, 0 net carbs. It's tremendous. And right now, Hero Bread is offering the PHLY fam 10% off their first order. Just go to hero.co and use our code PHLY to save on Hero Bread today. That's hero.co to save 10% today. I want to get into that Travis Konecny conversation now because I'm just, you got me excited, Charlie.
Okay.
I'm excited about where this thing is going.
Yeah.
And do I think they're going to make the playoffs? Probably not. You know, it would be surprising, especially if like
It's a very deep Eastern Conference.
It's a very like that's the Buffalo had 91 points last year. They missed by a game. You know, this is a you got to get 95 points to like maybe ensure your playoffs, and that would be a pretty damn big jump. That's a 20-point jump from
huge.
last year.
Yeah.
But Travis Konecny, now he scores his 9th goal of the season in the first period. Dude could have had like 3-4 tonight. Tons of chances.
He sure could have, yeah. He's everywhere.
9 goals. That is the most in the NHL, tied with some pretty damn good dudes. Travis Konecny is killing it. He is signed through next year at $5.5 million. We had like a conversation after the first period where, you know, we've talked about what shape this rebuild's going to take, and does it even make sense to, you know, they like Konecny, they want to keep him, but does it actually make sense? When we're saying they might be ahead of the curve, that could very well mean it actually does make sense to keep Travis Konecny in orange and black for a long time.
Yeah. I think that's kind of the more I see of this team and the more they keep doing this. Now, if we get to game 30 and they look like a total dumpster fire, that changes things. But we're 11 games in, and this Flyers team looks pretty darn good structurally. It looks like a lot of the young guys, we're going to get into Joel Farabee a little bit later, but Bobby Brink looks good. Like, pieces are coming into place much quicker than I think we either expected or even hoped they would. And suddenly, a guy like Travis Konecny, who he has one more year left on his deal, $5.5 million cap hit, he'll be a UFA after that. So you're going to have to make a decision. And
July 1, he's eligible for an extension.
Eligible for an extension July 1. You're eligible to sign a guy. You're allowed to sign a guy to an extension, you know, once we get to the year before his contract expires. The way I'd always looked at Konecny was this. If the Flyers aren't going to have any shot at contending for a Stanley Cup until it's, 4 or 5 years down the road, if that's the timeline that we're looking at, it makes zero sense to re-sign Travis Konecny, because the thing is that you're going to be through 3 years of his next contract, probably the good years of that contract, before he starts declining, before you're actually looking to, be anything more than a team that's just trying to sell tickets. However, if this team could be ready in 2 to 3 years to be regularly in the playoffs, and then you're building from there, suddenly, hey, you sign Travis Konecny to a 6-year deal after next season, maybe by year 2, the Flyers are in the mix. And then you get year 2, year 3, year 4 of a real good Travis Konecny on a pretty good cap hit for what he provides. Because look at it. So over the last 2 years, Travis Konecny has 40 goals in 71 games.
That's the stat you threw at me.
That is wild.
In his last 71, he has 40 goals. Like, if he is a legitimate 40 goal scorer, I know we keep saying they don't have the high end talent. They do.
They might. If he's a 40 goal scorer, he's still not as, and I told you this, he's not the best player on a cup contender. He's probably not the second best player on a cup contender. But as you're getting further down, you're like, the fourth best player on a cup contender. If you got a superstar, you got another big time goal scorer, you got a number 1 defenseman. Like, yeah, Travis Konecny is kind of that next tier down. At least he's looking like it.
And just like, I love, there were so many early career comparisons to Brad Marchand. And you look at how he is, and of course, like, he did what he did last night, so everyone's like, oh, Marchand up to his old tricks.
Yeah.
But you just see how he's matured from, like, rat-faced asshole to one of the best players in the league, and it was like a gradual incline. I kind of see a similar trajectory, and I'm not saying he's going to be the captain, not saying he's going to be a perennial all-star, but he's been really impressive. And what has impressed me the most, like, when I think of Konecny at his best, I think of I guess I think of 1920 when he's on the line with Couturier and Giroux.
Okay.
And it's like, well, yeah, Couturier's getting them in the offensive zone. One of the best playmakers in the league is finding him. Yeah, he's having a nice season.
Yeah.
He's not doing it with Sean Couturier. I mean, Couturier doesn't play tonight, but
tonight he just manufactured his goal.
Yeah.
He forces a turnover and then goes down the ice and scores.
You
don't need a center for that.
I looked up his scoring log. The only point of TKs that Coots has factored in on was Konecny's power play goal against Anaheim.
Okay.
He has been doing this with this team's second-tier players.
Yeah.
He has been the best player on his line, and he's been extremely productive.
Yeah.
Like, so if we do kind of pencil him in as that second-line guy that we always kind of thought he is, now he's anchoring an excellent second line, and I don't see why he can't if he's doing it right now, and he has for the last 2 years.
Exactly, and that's the thing, too. When we get caught up in this idea of, is this player a first liner, is this player a second liner, or whatever, what it really boils down to, and this is the part that fans sometimes maybe forget when they're trying to figure out, like, okay, how does everybody slot in? Travis Konecny on a great team probably is on the second line. That does not mean he's a second liner. That means that the best teams have first line caliber players on their second lines. That's why they're the best teams. Like, that's how you win cups. If you have a team where you have your first line is full of first line caliber players, your second line is full of second line caliber players, and then it goes down from there, you're not going to win anything.
No, third lines win cups.
Yeah. You know what you're going to do? You're going to make the playoffs every year, probably, because you have a deep team where everybody's slotted in correctly, and they're going to lose in the first round because you're going to play against a team that has John Tavares as their third line center.
I always think of the Penguins teams that won back-to-back, and they have that HBK third line.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, Phil Kessel in his prime's on your third line. You're a pretty damn good team.
Exactly.
Like, I always think of that. Like, is Phil Kessel a third liner at that point? No. And that's why they won every matchup.
Yep.
Like, yeah, Crosby, he's one of the best players of all time, but he's up against 1Cs every night. They're going to cancel each other out probably. Malkin, yeah, that's a good second-line matchup advantage.
Yeah.
But in the Eastern Conference Final and the Stanley Cup Final, you're probably against a great team too, so they have someone. And then the third line is where you start to see those differences. Like, I think that's what we really saw with Tampa. Like, the way they came at you with, oh yeah, look at our third line, it's better than your second. Like, that's what I'm seeing with this Flyers team now is, yeah, Noah Cates, 3C, that'll work.
Yeah, that plays.
That will work.
That plays.
I'm very excited about the future of this team. I don't want to get so far ahead of myself that we forget the present, because they look really good right now.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, are still just a 500 team. But that also works for the rebuild,
Yeah, it's not bad.
It's not the worst thing in the world.
We all agree they need a number one defenseman.
Yeah.
Would be great to get that guy in the top 10. And if you can do it while also making legitimate improvements to your underlying quality of play, that's kind of the best of both worlds here.
Let's talk about your boy Farabee.
Hell yeah.
2 assists tonight. Doesn't score a goal. Could have a couple. Had a few good looks, but that play he made to set up the Brink goal.
Yeah.
to handle that pass, make the move along the boards, and then wait it out to be able to lead Brink right into it. That's an all-star play.
Yeah.
Like, that is him at his absolute best. And we think of him as a goal scorer, but that other stuff, play in the neutral zone, being able to lead that pass that splits the defenseman, that's sick.
Yeah, and he's the one who starts the play off to begin with by forcing the turnover at the top of the point. Like, this is what we envision Joel Farabee being. And I had a good conversation with Torts on Wednesday about him because we talked about it on the show. My thing about Joel Farabee coming into the season is that I wanted Joel Farabee to show me what kind of player he wanted to be. If you want to be a goal scorer, go be a goal scorer. Go score 35, 40 a year. That's great. I think you have the talent to do that. If you want to be a dominant two-way winger in the Justin Williams mode, cool. Own that role. Do that and be that guy. Well, what we're seeing this year is kind of like him doing the why not both meme. Like, he's kind of doing both. Like, he's got which is score a lot of goals and be real good two-way.
It is the comparison you made early on. Simone Gagne.
Yeah.
And I don't want to listen. Simone Gagne had a couple of 40-goal seasons. He's one of the most clutch flyers we've had, in my lifetime.
A lot of big goals.
Dude was maybe one of the most underrated players of his generation, quite honestly.
I think he's, to me, Simone Gagne,
he called him the signature player of the 2000s.
The signature player of the 2000s. Hold
and I don't think you're wrong. If Farabee can be some semblance of that, Jesus, he's good. And what I've really loved, not just him, but the chemistry he's developing with Bobby Brink. Both Brink and Farabee got assists on Lawton's goal. Farabee has 9 points this year. Brink has factored into them somehow on 7.
Nice.
These two are Jake and G.
Yeah. No, they're clicking. They're clicking. And you love to see it because, I mean, I'm not going to say that he's, one of those guys is Jake, one of those guys is Giroux.
Drew should go to the Hall of Fame, and Jake was an excellent player for a long time.
Yes, but I love the chemistry. I love the fact that those two guys are looking for each other out there. Like, even though on that first goal, the goal that Lawton scores, like, there was never a sequence where Brink passed the puck directly to Farabee or Farabee passed the puck directly to Brink. You could tell that they just sort of knew where each other were. And that's how they were able to execute that clean entry with Lawton. And one thing it also shows, because for most of this time, Noah Cates has been the center on that line.
Yeah.
They moved Noah Cates up because Sean Couturier misses the game. And with a new center, and like Lawton, I like Scott Lawton. He's no superstar. With a new center, they didn't miss a beat, the other two wingers. They looked like just as comfortable as they did with Cates.
The passing play to set up to set up the Lawton goal. Like, nice shot by Lawton. He scored it. Good for him. Had him at plus 360. Hope you listened to my bets today. I think we went like 2 and 3, but the Lawton number paid itself off. That's high-end stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what they did to set up that Lawton goal, that's as good as it gets for a couple of guys. Like Bobby Brink, this is his 15th career game.
Yeah, he hasn't played much.
Has not played much and has looked outstanding. This, I didn't even see. I saw that you put some stats in here for Farabee. Entered tonight with a 69.57% expected goal share. That seems like a lot.
It's really
70% of the expected goals when he's on the ice are for the Flyers.
Yep. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And Noah Cates might explain some of that,
but not all of it.
But he's also got 9 points in 11 games.
Exactly. Farabee's the one who's scoring the points on that line.
He's doing the scoring.
Yeah, him and Brink. No, Farabee, and it's funny because there was actually a question in my mailbag where the person who asked it was like, does Farabee look rusty to you? And while I understand, because the question was, do Farabee and Lawton look rusty? And my answer was basically like, look, I can see where you're coming from with Lawton. I think Lawton's been fine. He was good to see him get on the scoreboard finally with a goal. But if you broke down his underlying numbers, he basically was just playing like Scott Lawton, just hadn't scored a goal yet. I got why you could watch Scott Lawton play and say, he's not making that big of an impact. Want to see a little bit more from him. I understand that. I've watched Joel Farabee this season, and I see a guy who's faster, I see a guy who's stronger, and I see a guy who's consistently showing me creativity in a way that he just wasn't last year. And going back to what I said about Tortorella, I asked Tortorella, what do you think Joel Farabee can be? What kind of player can he be? And Torts basically said, I think he can do everything. He's not quite there yet, but I think he can both be the guy who I put on the ice when we're down a goal with the goalie pulled and we need to score, and a guy I put on the ice when they've pulled the goalie and we're trying to kill a game. He's like,
I'm thinking about throwing him in net tomorrow.
He's like, I think he could develop into a guy who does everything for me. And number one, it's good to hear from a guy in John Tortorella who look, I think I know hockey. I will never say I know more hockey than an NHL friggin' head coach who's going to the Hall of Fame.
Some of them, but yeah, not
that one. Yeah. Plus, it's really reassuring because I think last year Torts wasn't completely sold on Farabee.
Yeah.
And he kind of made the decision that I'm going to consider that to be a wash year because he came back early from the injury, didn't really have a summer. Okay, water under the bridge. Let's see how you do this year. And John Tortorella seems like someone who's like, yo, I like what I see in this kid. This is the real Joel Farabee. It's fun. He's been one of low-key my favorite players to watch this season because I really do think he might be in the midst of taking that leap that we want him to take.
I mean, he's right there. I guess if I'm going to try to understand the question, is he rusty? He's had a ton of chances and hasn't buried them.
Fair.
Like maybe just the stick work, whatever, the angles. I don't know how you score goals. I couldn't do it in high school. I certainly couldn't do it in the fucking NHL.
Fair.
So maybe it's just that stuff. And if he's back, we expected this guy to be a 35-goal scorer. And, he's on a pretty good pace right now. So we'll see. But very happy with what I'm seeing out of Farabee and the Flyers as a whole. And maybe you're thinking, so am I, man. I got to get down to the Wells Fargo Center. Wasn't really planning on going to many games this year, but the Flyers are just way more fun than I thought.
And how are you going to do that?
You do it with Game Time, baby. Buying tickets to your favorite events shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has tickets right up to the day of the event, which is huge because Flyers are right back home tomorrow, Saturday night at the Wells Fargo Center to take on the LA Kings. I bet that's going to be a pretty fun game. Kings are a damn good team.
Saturday night hockey, no complaints.
Little hockey night in Philly. Get a couple of fights. We're going to get to the fights later. But so maybe you want to use Game Time to go there. You should absolutely do it because you can get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more includes hockey. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section or row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. So snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Farabee has been really, really good. Do you think he is where does he slide? We're talking about Konecny. Or maybe he really is a first line player. If he's on your second line, you have a 6-second line.
Yeah.
We've been juggling the idea of what exactly. You said coming into this year, I want to find out what Farabee is. Now, 11 games in, I'm not asking you to make declarative, this is definitely what he is. But what we're seeing right now out of he and Bobby Brink to some extent, where does he slot in on this trademarked next great Flyers team?
It's an interesting question. I mean, to me, if this is, and I'm certainly not expecting the Flyers to continue to collect 70% of the expected goals when he's on the ice.
Be surprised.
That's going to come down a little bit. But to me, this version of Joel Farabee, if he can hold this level of play on the whole through the rest of the year, I mean, to me, he's a clear-cut top sixer. And one thing that he does have going for him, now this might change a little bit if Gauthier doesn't prove to be a center in the NHL. They don't have a lot of left wings.
They have 0 left wingers.
So, Joel Farabee might end up being a first liner by default.
He is the only left winger that they have. And to his credit, he has been taking advantage of the opportunity he's getting. Got to talk about Tyson Foerster now.
Okay.
On a line with TK and Frost, has looked good, is getting chances, cashed his over 1.5 shots tonight, so that was real nice. Had 2 shots on goal,
Loving
plus
that.
2, but no points. It's coming. But, when, Charlie? When?
Well, the good news is that enough other guys are going that it's not killing them that Tyson Foerster isn't scoring. That said, you really would like to see him score some freaking goals.
That's the thing is now we're getting to the point if like some of these guys who we're expecting a little more out of get going, we are fucking talking playoffs. Like if Tyson Foerster starts scoring, that means all three lines are scoring. I just all four now that the fourth line's going.
That's fair. I just want to see like it's honestly gotten past the point where I'm worried about his development and I'm worried about whether they're going to set him down.
Just ridiculous.
It's more
now.
just like I just want the kid to freaking score.
No, that's like getting frustrated isn't the way. Like I'm not frustrated with him. It's just like, oh Jesus Christ, what now?
Yeah.
Like really, that one didn't go. You know, and he's still making plays out there. It's not as if he's just ripping and it's not like he looks good. But coming in, I just had such high expectations for him, and that was another question. Like when is the dam going to break for him that I took in the mini mailbag? And it's like, I mean, no one knows the answer when.
Yeah.
But I said to like watching one shift of his tonight where it was like he was this close and just things went wrong like 3 times in a row. It's like he's not going to get 1, he's going to get 3.
Yeah.
His first game that he finally lights the lamp, bring a shitty old hat you don't care about losing. Like I truly believe this at this point. Like Bobby Brink, he had 2 when he finally got 1. Like it's gonna happen at some point.
Yeah.
But last year, I guess this is a surprise to me because he was effective right away last year, and maybe that's just beginner's luck.
Yeah, or the fact that
percentage.
He was already in. Like he had been playing the whole year in the AHL, so he came in probably feeling good about his game. Whereas now, like I don't think he's
didn't have a great
poorly.
camp.
Yeah,
didn't have a great preseason.
Exactly. I just think now he's gripping the stick way too tight because he's thinking to himself, "I need to score. I need to score." And to his credit, it's not like the rest of his game has fallen off. I think he's playing really strong defense. I think he's been good along the boards. He's had some nice passes. It's just he's not scoring. And the thing that hurts him too, and this is, while it's partially on him because he's a part of it, one thing that is really hurting him is just how pathetic the power play is. Because, look, Tyson Foerster, I think, is going to be a power play weapon at the NHL level, but he's never going to be the guy who like does all the puck stuff. He's the guy who you stick in a spot and you say, hey, the guy who's doing the puck stuff is going to get you the puck and you're going to blast it in and score. And the thing is that the Flyers a lot of times seem like they're running around like chickens with their heads cut off, whether it's trying to get up ice or when they get up ice, it's like, okay, now we're here. Now what do we do? And you would think that if they had a better handle on what this power play is supposed to be, that maybe he would have lucked into a few like top corner one-timer shots where the goalie just can't get over in time, but he's not getting those because the power play's a mess.
And I will say, because of their complete lack of left wingers, like you want those guys reversed on the power play to set up one-time opportunities. I didn't notice I honestly didn't even take note of what the power play lines were tonight, but it was noted last game. Well, we have Tippett and Foerster on the same power play, and Tippett's in, the Ovechkin spot. How's Foerster ever supposed to get his shot off if he's like he's got the puck over here, like he's outside the hash mark, right-handed, like he's not going to score from over there.
Exactly.
That's where the defense wants the puck on the penalty kill. Like it's kind of redundant if they could figure out a way to get both of them in that spot on separate units, but also they don't have enough guys for one good power play unit, let alone 2.
Exactly.
Like is Ryan Poehling your center of the second power play? I don't even know at this point.
Yeah. It's fair. And look, I think Foerster, I think it's going to come. It seems like they've decided that they're going to wait it out with him because they're seeing enough good things that they're not just going to give up on him and send him down to score some goals in the AHL.
And he's not like, want him to score. He's not playing bad.
No, he's not. He's not playing bad. He's not dragging down his line. He's making plays. He's being a conscientious two-way player, and they're willing to wait on it. And I think that's the right way to do this because, look, we spent the first half of the show talking about how impressive the Flyers are, how the fact they're exceeding our expectations, about all the good things they're doing in terms of out-shooting, out-chancing the opposition, playing well against good teams. We still do have to remember the point of this season is development. The point of this season is building for the future, not trying to win one extra game in November. And this, I think, if Tyson Foerster was looking like Emil Andre, where it looked like Emil Andre was overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Get him down. Yeah. He doesn't look overwhelmed. He looks very comfortable, other than the fact he can't score a freaking goal yet. And I think that's going to come.
I tend to agree. Speaking of guys who looked uncomfortable, Sam Ersson, Wednesday.
Looked past tense.
Yes, looked. Wednesday, obviously, not a night for the highlight reel for Sam Ersson.
It wasn't.
It wasn't like he was even bad.
It was just he didn't make that big stop.
Yeah, like they needed him to make a stop.
Yeah,
and it was like the goals that went in. It was like, yeah, they had another odd man rush. Like they're supposed to score.
Yeah.
When the Flyers don't score on odd man rushes, we don't go, oh, goalie was great. We go, what the fuck did you screwed it up? It was 2-on-1.
That's a good point.
Like they're supposed to score, but every now and then you got to steal one. He made saves, but he didn't steal any.
You got to get a big save.
That leads to them losing the way they did, despite vastly outplaying Buffalo tonight in the first period. Now, granted, what did Buffalo have? Like 2-3 shots in the first period?
Not many.
It was not a ton, so you didn't really get a good look. But I thought first, like 20, 25 minutes of this game, Ersson still wasn't like impressing me. And then he seemed to really lock in.
Yeah.
Like it looked like got a couple of shots, got his confidence back. And then after he finally let in a goal. Wasn't a great goal to let in. He came right back, made a save after that, didn't kill him. He looked like a guy that you can at least count on to be the backup right now.
Yeah, well, now they might need to be more than that.
Well, now he needs to. Cal Peterson's the backup, so he needs to play every fucking night. And Felix Sandstrom, this is something I wanted to get to, too. Bob Rochuk, who, if you don't know, he's the Phantoms radio guy. He's a great Twitter follow.
Yeah.
He tweeted that Sandstrom left the game with an upper body injury tonight for Lehigh Valley. So number 3 is hurt.
Yeah.
Number 1 is hurt. Cal Peterson hasn't stopped
Come
a puck.
on down.
Cal Peterson hasn't stopped a puck in about 3 years. I looked up his Phantoms numbers, and they're garbage.
They're not good.
He's terrible. So Sam Ersson probably going to be playing a ton. He's going to have to look good, and he did tonight.
Presumably, Peterson will play tomorrow night.
You would have to think his old team back-to-backs.
Yeah, you might get some fuel, want to show your old team they were wrong to give up on you, whatever, even though they were honestly right to give up on him.
They were very much right.
Given how poorly he played in his final couple years in LA. That said, going back to Ersson, because he's the more important topic, I really liked his game. What I liked the most about it, and Brian Boucher, understandably, he's a goalie. He knows how these things work. He pointed this out on the broadcast, so I'm more echoing him. But I had the same feeling. I loved how he responded to the goal he gave up, because that was not a good goal.
Yeah.
You know, Jukka Harju's not a great player. He's a defenseman. He's not like a sniper or anything. And honestly, Ersson just kind of whiffed on it. You know, it's a distant shot.
He missed.
You got to make that save. He missed. Okay, you're up 4-0. Now you're up 4-1. Fine. We'd love for you to make that save, but there's a cushion. It's cool. Then Buffalo gets some momentum. Now, they're down 3 goals, but hey, get another quick goal. Suddenly it's a game. And I tweeted this out. I was literally in the process of breaking down the first goal that he gave up, the only goal he gave up with you while we're watching in the studio. And I said, he's got to make that stop. It's not like Jukka Harju's Tage Thompson. And then as I'm saying
Thompson rips one from the slot.
It was a good shot.
Yes.
Like it was a good shot. It did look ticketed. And Ersson just like whips out his pad and makes a big save. And that was 30 seconds after he gave up a bad goal.
Right away.
And then he's facing off against one of the best shooters in hockey
he had
right
like
46,
47 last year or something like that.
And he makes a big save. And it was one of those moments where we were like, that's the Sam Ersson I remember from last year. That's that guy that John Tortorella really likes, his attitude. He likes his confidence. He likes his general ability to shake off bad things. That's the Ersson that has the Flyers so excited. And it made me feel better about the possibility of Ersson maybe having to hold down the fort for a couple weeks, depending on how long Carter Hart is out with this injury.
I just have to mention, since you brought up Tortorella and how his affinity for Sam Ersson, it's funny, you're not on the trip, so you watched his pregame availability the way I did, and I got to tell you, as someone who's like, I like John Tortorella, but I also sometimes I'm like, he's a little much. I don't know. Sometimes
I think his players think the same thing.
Not even his personality. Just like sometimes I don't know if he's right for a rebuilding team.
Fair.
I go back and forth on his fit, but ultimately, like I just kind of like him as a coach. I absolutely love him now. He's way up there for me simply because he believes He did not say this word for word, but it really just kind of sounded like he believes goalies aren't people either. And I just absolutely love that. Like they ask him, like, you probably don't know much. You probably came into the year not knowing much about Sam. He's like, still don't know anything about him. And he's like, I haven't said a word to him. The goalie coach has got it. I stay out of the way. Yep. I'm like, this is great. Dude, I love you.
You just stop the puck, man.
It's all I ever ask of my goalies is stop the puck. That's it. And I just truly love that. And speaking of Ersson, I think it's a good time for Bill Matz's 3 stars of the game.
Hey,
nice. We got to start out with the winning goaltender tonight. Nice bounce back performance for him. Stopped 21 of 22. It is Mr. Samuel Ersson coming in at star number 2. Couple of assists. We just love the way he's been playing. Him and Brink are a dynamic duo. Got to give it to Joel Farabee, star number 2 of the game. And my first star, Charlie, that's right. He gets number 1 because not only did he score, but he whooped some ass in a fight tonight.
He did.
Garnett Hathaway.
Oh, he did.
I'm familiar with Hathaway's game. He was in Washington for a while, gets traded up to Boston last year to join
Calgary
to join them for their to join them for their run. And you were like, because I was critical of the signing. I was like, it just doesn't make sense to me. He's a right winger, and that's literally all we have.
Yeah,
it's the
true.
only thing we have, and they brought in another one. You're like, yeah, but for us, like, he's a fun player to watch, and if the games are all going to suck, at least, and they haven't, but coming into the year, we didn't know that. If they're all going to suck, at least there's one guy who's going to be a little bit more entertaining. Oh, I was entertained tonight.
Are you not entertained?
I was thoroughly entertained tonight.
He absolutely eviscerated Dylan Cousins. Like, what was Dylan Cousins thinking?
Like, Hathaway, if you missed like the sequence, it was near the end of the game. The Flyers are up 5-1. Hathaway throws a nice hit. It was a hard hit, but it wasn't clean. It wasn't anything to write home about.
It was just a normal hit in a hockey game.
Yeah. And Cousins, he's just pissed off. He's losing 5-1, throws a little cross check in Hathaway's back. Hathaway just gets up and be like, that's all I needed. He was like, thank you. Yeah, you know what?
Gave me a reason.
You gave me all the reason I needed, and just gloves off, hammering him before Cousins thought it was going to be a shoving match. He didn't think it was going to be a fight.
No.
And Hathaway was like, nah, this is a fucking fight, bro.
Yeah.
And I can't believe the refs didn't step in sooner.
I thought they were going to stop it.
But I'm happy they didn't.
Yeah.
That was a hell of a tussle.
And the thing is, like, sometimes you have fights where, like, there's a lot of punches thrown, but not a lot to connect. Oh, he was landing them.
He was like 4 for 4. He was like he got like 3 or 4 good ones in tonight.
Well, one thing about Hathaway, the fact you have him as your number 1 star, I don't think you were the only one. I believe, based on what I saw from Twitter, he got the dog mask.
Oh, there we go, boys. There we go.
The boys agreed with you.
How could you not? I mean, that fourth line, they took some heat when they were assembled, and it was like right away. Ooh, I don't think Couturier is all that interested in breaking them up. Eventually, he did for a couple of games,
right.
And now with the Couturier, with the depth issues that they're having, everyone's out there. We get both rookies, we get Frost, and we get the fourth line, and they get their first goal as a trio tonight. When Hathaway scored his first, Lawton was the center of the line, but now all of PhD was out there. I think it was Tuesday, the one live show we did this week, when I was like, listen, I am entertained by that fourth line, but is it really that necessary for a rebuilding team to have the energy, culture line? It is for me. It's worth it.
Guess who led the Flyers in high danger scoring chances tonight? Our boy Nick Delorier.
I said, I think it was again on Tuesday when we quoted Tortorella, and it was like through the first 5 games, Delorier was second on the team in scoring chances, and I was like, listen, he's been great. But if who was ever keeping the stats is huffing glue, if that's the case. Honestly, I wouldn't even be shocked if he's top 5 on the team in scoring chances. That line makes shit happen.
Yeah.
Like, it's hard to argue with a line that's good. Like, we can have our preconceived notions about what should and shouldn't be, but when the guys go out and perform, like, what can the coach do? Like, yeah, but you're not supposed to be part of this thing, so I got to sit you. Like, they're here and they're good, so they have to play.
Exactly. Like, that's what I was telling people on Twitter when they were saying, well, just bench Delorier. And it's like, look, I get where you're coming from.
He's an integral part of this thing.
Because historically, if you look at his career metrics, if you look at his career track record, yes, he on paper looks like the weak link in this lineup who should not be playing when Morgan Frost is sitting. I agree with you. However, if you're watching the games, you can see that he's playing well, and a coach can't go into the room and continue to try to proclaim that this is a meritocracy.
The guys know. That's what they always say. The boys know.
The boys know who's playing well, and anyone who's watching the Flyers can tell that Delorier's playing well. Like, you can't go in there and be like, yeah, we're sitting Delorier because reasons. You're going to be like, what the fuck? Like, Delorier looks good. Like, Nick's doing what he's supposed to do out there. Like, Ryan Poehling had a couple games. He got pulled out of the lineup. Delorier really hasn't had mad games. Now, he's not scoring a ton. We're not expecting him to do that, but he's playing well.
What, he have 6 points last year? Like, he ain't gonna score.
Like, he's playing pretty well. And like, I'm not saying that there isn't a scenario where where I would want him to be benched, where I would watch him for 5 games and be like, hey, he's not really doing anything other than he had 2 fights and that was it. But like, on the ice, he's a liability. Get him out. And I will not happily, but I will be happy to say
the truth.
I think Delorier should be out of the lineup. But I'm watching these games, and he should not be out of the lineup right now. He's playing well.
I will say that we were joking, like, when Hathaway gets in that fight. Is Delorier still only at 1 this year? I think he only has 1. Like, he's got to be dying to get in one.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it makes sense. He's a heavyweight, and there's only like 3 left, and like, he can't fight himself. So unless they play Toronto, there's only so many guys who are even going to be willing to fight him.
Well, he just had the one that was like at the start of the game.
He started the game. Was it Maroon, I think?
Yeah, that sounds
right. And it's
right.
like, yeah, the dude's 9 feet tall. And he wanted no part of that. He said yes, but once Delorier got inside on him, he was like, nope. I'm using my reach to keep you away until we fall down. Like, he wanted, and Maroon's gigantic and wanted no part of Delorier.
It wasn't the most fun fight.
It wasn't. It was he didn't want it. But Delorier has looked good. I don't think you can do what he does, but if you want to look good, you got to go with FOCO, because FOCO has the absolute best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. Whether you're looking for team apparel for the season ahead, they've got overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, anything you need for game day. And that's not all. Accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items. You've got to use FOCO for all your team gear needs. Charlie, I've been looking for something that's cool enough to replace the overalls, and I think I found them. They have these like reversible blanket hoodies. I was going to actually make Vince buy me one to do the late night post games next week, but since we're not doing the late night post games next week, I guess I'm not going to force him to spend money on something I'm not even going to get to wear on post game. But I think those are the thing that when the Flyers actually, we believe that they're as good as they look, maybe they will start replacing the overalls. I might have to rock one for a post game or two. Okay. But you can get them right at FOCO. You know, they always have our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in the description of this show. And for all non-presale items, use promo code PHLY for 10% off. That's promo code PHLY. FOCO. I love them.
That's your new tagline for them?
I love you.
I love you.
I love Lamp.
I love Lamp. Real quick, want to jump in here. We had a question here from Dylan M. Any plans for future tailgates, PHLY Flyers events? Last weekend was a lot of fun. Dylan, glad you had a good time. And yes, there will be more events coming. I do think
you know the dates of these things. I have not committed them to memory yet. Should we? Are we allowed to say what they are?
I don't think we're quite at that point yet.
I don't think we're there yet.
What I will say is that my plan, and I want this to be a thing, I want there to be a PHLY Flyers event once a month. So last month was a tailgate. I think we might stay away from the outdoor tailgates for a little bit, given we're moving into the winter months.
It's a little chilly.
I don't want anyone to get frostbite in a parking lot in South Philadelphia. But just maybe later on in November, we may be having an indoor event at a place of imbibing, let's say.
A place of imbibing?
Let's say that maybe that could be coming down the road. So keep an eye out. We'll have more details on that. But to answer your question, Dylan, yes, that is something I definitely want to do in terms of having more events, and I want it to be on a monthly basis. So those are coming. Keep an eye out.
We've said it from the beginning. it was always the next step for us, whether it was BSH or whatever happened, and whatever happened is where we are now.
Hey-o.
Like, we've always wanted to be able to get to the point where, Festivus is dope. Draft party is dope. We have this awesome community. Let's get together and enjoy this ridiculous fucking hockey team as much as possible. And I think we're going to get to a place where we can actually do that.
Yes.
And it's exciting, man. And it's very helpful that the team's on
Watchable?
board. Yeah,
They're watchable?
Listen, man, it's all well and good to plan these things and have these ideas, and then when they have 4 wins at Christmas, it's like, who's showing up?
Yeah, exactly.
I always think back to the draft party, and it was an hour beforehand they trade their pick for Ristolainen, and I'm like, well, who's gonna come? and people did actually show up.
They did come.
People did. I was shocked. I thought I was gonna show up and have my worst nightmare unfold, a party that no one shows up to. But people, the support we've had forever is awesome. We're gonna keep having things to keep you hooked with us. I think that's what I'm getting at here. So I'm very excited for that, and I'm excited to relearn the details of this next one because that's out of my mind completely. Do you think there's anything else we need to address prior to
I need to address.
We'll be right back here tomorrow for the post game 7:30 start. It's a Star Wars night, I believe, down at the Wells Fargo.
No, it's a military appreciation.
Military appreciation.
Yes.
Is next week Star Wars night?
Star Wars night is coming at some point this month. I don't know the exact, but yeah, this is military appreciation.
Feel
Actually,
such an asshole mixing those two things up.
I mean, there's war in the name.
Yeah, thank you for your service, Luke Skywalker.
No, they actually had the USO at practice. I believe it was Wednesday.
I did see this. Yes.
The players invited service members from all the different branches to come out on the ice. It was really nice. John Tortorella always gets really excited about these sorts of things. They did something similar last year. So yeah, military appreciation night is tomorrow. Obviously, the Flyers are playing tomorrow. It's a 7:30 p.m. start. I will be covering the game from the arena, but I will be calling in to post game as
JP
I've been doing.
and I will be right here in studio. Oh, since I read about military appreciation night in Meltzer's piece today. And that reminded me of the last thing I wanted to talk about.
Okay.
Morgan Frost.
Morgan Frost.
Obviously, we draw the line from Bill Meltzer to Morgan Frost, and it's all in good fun.
It is.
I love Bill. But he is the resident Morgan Frost
He is the
guy.
number one Morgan Frost fan.
That's just his thing.
Yeah.
A little piece of him. That's you made the joke of the night tonight when they took away the assist on the Belpedio goal.
Yeah.
You're like, a little piece of Bill Meltzer just died because they took away Frost's assist. He finally got on the scoreboard, and no, he didn't.
I thought he played well tonight. I thought he was making plays. I thought he was making. Actually, he had a couple really good defensive plays too. I thought he had
Made
a strong
few plays
game.
at the defensive blue line. I saw. Yeah.
I thought he had a strong game. He just, he's just not breaking through yet.
At the end of the day, and you've said it, he's a points producer. That is his value. Yeah. If he is not producing points, we're going to need more out of him. But he's another one.
You get the sense that he's due. Maybe it's a game where Foerster is going to get a hat trick and Frost is going to assist on all 3 goals.
It just feels like it's coming. I thought Frost's first game back from his 6-game absence, he was very good. Doesn't register a point. I thought he was mostly unnoticeable until late in the third last game. You had a different view of it. We differed there. Tonight, I thought he looked a lot more noticeable like his first game back, but ultimately still hasn't.
Yeah, you got to score.
And when you're one of those guys, you are kind of depending on your line mates to finish.
Sure.
And, last game, Wednesday's game, if you're a dude who needs your teammates to finish, you ain't going to look that great when they just cannot.
Yeah.
And then tonight, he had some opportunities to put some points on the board. He has 1 assist taken away, set up a few more, but he's going to break through. He's not, as much as I'm on Morgan Frost, he's good.
Yeah, he's
not
a perfectly fine NHL player.
Yeah, he's a perfectly fine player. We're trying to find out if he's, oh no, we got to keep this guy or whatever. Yeah. That's what we're trying to find out. And so far, he's playing well, but not well enough.
Exactly.
In my mind. That's it.
I think it's fair to say that while it's not that he's playing poorly, and I certainly don't want him coming out of the lineup again anytime soon.
Wouldn't make sense. And now with Couturier hurt.
Yeah.
Who's gonna play?
if your calling card is being an offensive point producer, you have to find a way to produce points.
Yeah.
And he hasn't yet, but hey, we got 71 more games for him to do it.
We certainly do, Charlie. And I think that about wraps it up for tonight. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for hanging out. If you haven't already, you got to hit that subscribe button. Follow our podcast wherever you get them. Go to allphilly.com. Become a diehard member. Subscribe to the YouTube. That's real important. Keep joining us for these live shows. Like I said, we'll be back tomorrow for post-game following the Kings game. All right, my name is Bill Matz. For Charlie O'Connor, have a great weekend, Philly.
We all silly like the mayor.